From what I've heard, if God is pure act, then he can have no potential. However, I've heard Catholics talk about how God could have saved us in other ways than sending Jesus to die for our sins and be risen from the dead. Wouldn't that imply that he had the potential to do otherwise? The same kind of question comes up for when God heals someone or chooses not to heal someone. Couldn't he have chosen to do the opposite? So if there's any way to meld these two different ideas together, that would be great. Thank you.
All right. He was wearing a Society
so
315 shirt. Gabriel, thank you very much for that impossibly difficult question. I'm looking forward to the answer.
Yeah. So when we talk about God as pure act, what we mean is that he doesn't have potential. So he's unchanging. And one of the easiest ways to explain why God is unchanging is because he's perfect. And if you're perfect, you can't change for the better, and you better not change for the worse. And so unchanging is where it's at. It's like weather in San Diego. Doesn't go up or down because it's already perfect.
Yeah. Well done, Joe.
That's the idea that God, everything about him is already and infinitely perfect. And so he isn't going to like get a little better or a little smarter or a little more powerful. He already is who he is. And this is why he can say, I am who I am. But this isn't just like a realization we come to from philosophy. This also best explains what God means in describing himself as infinite being when he reveals himself to Moses and says, I am who I am. That gets to this mysterious nature. That's totally unlike our mode of being. We're constantly in a state of transition and change because we are hopefully changing for the better, but we're constantly changing because of our radical imperfection. So that's the first thing to kind of just get straight. That doesn't mean, however, that God doesn't act in a way that appears dynamic because he's acting in history. Now, all of history stands before God as one present moment. He exists outside of time. This is another reason he doesn't change, because change implies some kind of temporality to God, that he is here and now in the 21st century, and, he's not the same God he used to be in the 19th century or something like this. And it's like, no, that's not it at all. He is outside of time. He created time. And so there's no before and after with God. There's only the eternal now. Nevertheless, he does interact at different points in different ways in history. For instance, the incarnation happens right there at this moment at the turn of the first century. He could have put it somewhere else. This was the most fitting place. He doesn't put it at the turn of the 15th century or the 21st century or anything like that. And so we can experience what look like changes in God because his one plan of salvation takes place in different times in different places where he reveals himself in ever greater sort of way. Hebrews 1 talks about this, that in many and various ways, God had revealed himself of old by the prophets, but now he's revealed himself by the Son. That there is this progressive revelation in God. This is not, of course, a change in him. That then gets to the question of we might call contingency or counterfactuals, that God created, but he didn't have to create. He did not create out of necessity. That, God would just take your and my existence. It is not that God had to make Joe Heschmeyer and Cy Kellett. He chose to. How we understand his choice is very mysterious. I mean, I don't want to say particularly which of us, but how we understand
one of us is a profound mystery. Why would God do that? But let's not get into which one it was. All right, go ahead,
Yeah,
Jay.
exactly. Well, people can vote in the comments below.
No voting.
Man of mystery. That the point there is, even though God acts, he was not compelled to act. He acts according to his nature, but not under compulsion. And he didn't have to. He didn't need the universe at all. So there is something mysterious about the way that he acts in time with the creation of anything and the fact that it didn't have to exist. But in this, the fact that he acted and didn't have to act, this didn't involve a change in God. This didn't involve him deliberating and then deciding to go with plan A instead of plan B, or him coming to any new knowledge. From all eternity, this was exactly the plan he was going to do. He knew perfectly which people he was going to create. He knew how they would respond to grace. He knew every every move and every response in one pure, eternal, perfect, single act of the mind in a way that we don't grasp or understand. We know he didn't have to do it in that way, but we also know that this was purely an act of his gratuitous grace and love, not something he was kind of compelled to do, and not something that involves any kind of parts that would be contrary to God being simple and pure act.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this Catholic Answer, be sure to like, subscribe, and check out our live streams Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific. Or find the episode after on YouTube, your favorite podcast platform, or our Catholic Answers app.